I can see your. Okay, I apologize for the no microphone. It's a bit hectic over here. There's like 100 new guests on Chol Hamoed during Sukkot and during Pesach. We get a lot of people. One second. Sorry. Okay. Zimmer, good to see you. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Sukkot. Sukkot is, like we said earlier, is 8 days. If you live outside of Israel, if you live in Israel, it's only 7 days. They only have 1 day of Yom Tif. Very distracting. Okay, come, you can sit down close. Yeah. Okay, no, it's too distracting. Okay, sorry. She's been a very good girl today, and her siblings were being tough on her, so she gets to bring your daughter to work today. So, no, just kidding. Sukkot. Okay, let me start with a story. We're in Chol Hamoed. So what Chol Hamoed is, very briefly, we explained it, I think, last week. Chol Hamoed means mundane holiday. So it's mundane in that you can get in your car, you can turn on a light, but you can't do anything like excessively strenuous. You shouldn't really be schlepping things around. You shouldn't be like carrying hard materials. Now, if your sukkah falls down, you can rebuild it on Chol Hamoed. Sorry for those who live in New York. I heard it was pretty crazy, and a lot of sukkahs were a little bit destroyed. But you can do that. But you shouldn't really go to work if you don't have to go to work. I know nowadays it's pretty tough. Chol Hamoed for Sukkot and Pesach traditionally was the time when we would take vacation. That was our vacation time as Jews. As from Jews. So if you live in the tri-state area, like New York, New Jersey, Washington, D.C., let's say, you will find many, many Jews and many programs going on at like Six Flags, at Niagara Falls has like this unbelievable concert and 5 days of fun and joy and for kids. Hershey Park in Pennsylvania has got something going on. And they accommodate for the Jewish people because there's like thousands of Jews that take off for that period of time. And then this is their Chol Hamoed trip. They will have sukkahs there. They'll have sukkahs that you can go and eat in if you'd like. I mean, it's pretty crazy. It's good business. So that was typically our time to go on vacation. I don't know what my family and I are going to do, but we live in Michigan, but we'll find something. So now, every night of Sukkot is called the Simchas Beis HaShoeva. What is Simchas Beis HaShoeva? There's a lot of things going on during Sukkot, and one of them, what was unique about the service in the temple during the Sukkot period of time, 2 things. Number one, all the nations of the world would come and bring a representative. So it was a holiday that was celebrated by both Jews and non-Jews. FYI, just something interesting. That's why the last day of Sukkot, the day after Sukkot ends on Hoshana Rabbah, which will be on Friday morning, Friday afternoon. Friday evening begins Shmini Atzeret. Shmini Atzeret is its own holiday. There is no obligation to sit in the Sukkah. Shmini Atzeret means on the 8th day, resting. You rest. God says, the Talmud tells us that God is saying, I make a party for all of the nations. For 7 days, I make a party for all of the nations. However, I want 1 day just with my children, the Jewish people. So that's the 8th day. He makes a banquet, a party just for the king, makes a party just for his, So the king invites anybody, the whole kingdom can come for partying. And then 1 day, I just want my close family. And that's what Shmini Atzeret is. Now, every single day, we'll make a Shechianu. And out in Israel, Simchat Torah and Shmini Atzeret are the same day or 1 day. Outside the land of Israel, like all of us here, you have Shmini Atzeret Friday night, and then Simchat Torah is Saturday night. But you'll see that we will do the Hakafot. We will do Hakafis, and we will dance with the Torah. Maybe I'll talk about that at the end. Every single night we have Simchat Beis HaShoeva. What was unique about that? So normally we would bring karbanot, we would bring sacrifices with wine. So it was all the nations would come and it was one big barbecue. That's really what it was. They would come, they would bring a cow. The cow, by the way, is the king of the animals. There's behemoth and chayot. Behemoth are domesticated animals. Chayot are undomesticated animals. And the Torah says that the cow is the king of the domesticated animals. They would come and we make a big barbecue. Now, one of the things at night, what we would do is all of the Jewish people would go to the courtyard of the temple. And they would draw the Kohanim would draw water from the Nachal Kidron, which was a river, which was that flowed, still there. It flows around in Jerusalem. And they would pour water, they would draw the water, and in the morning they would pour the water onto the Mizbeach, onto the altar. And it brought tremendous joy. Now, it would be singing and dancing, and there would be music playing. It was a huge festivity. One of the reasons is because water represents Torah, and Torah, or faith, really about Emunah, faith in God, and faith is simple. It's the simplicity. So, when you pray, it says you should pray like a tinuk, like a child. A child, when they pray to Hashem, it's just pure. It's just simple. I don't think about all the great Kabbalistic insights that go along with praying. It's very simple. I just pray like I'm just asking for something. Like, thank you, God. Thank you, Father. Can I have such and such a thing? Or, thank you for helping me out. Like, very simple. That's represented by water. Wine, which is something that we would pour throughout the entire year onto the altar, has a taste to it, and then it has color. There's complexity to it. Here was water, and water represents the Jewish people. It was like the greatest representation of ourselves. So we only ever did that during Sukkot, Nisuch Hamayim. It was the pouring of the water, and it was accompanied by great fanfare. And what we would do, and this is the beginning of the mechitza. Yeah, if you go to Orthodox shul, we have traditionally, I shouldn't say Orthodox, but traditionally our synagogues have a mechitza. Mechitza is a separation. Why? It started in the temple times. What happened was, during the first temple, men and women mixed together, and they would watch this whole party going on. By the time the second temple came around, a little later into the second temple, there was a lot of fraternizing. Yeah, oh, he's cute or whatever. And they would start talking to each other, and then it was so there was a party going on. It was a big fanfare, but it was getting a little inappropriate. So they said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to build a balcony on top of the women's courtyard, and the women are going to go up there so they'll get a great view, and they won't mix with the men, and the men will stay down here. And that was the beginning of the idea of a mechitza. That the problem is it's distracting. When men and women are sitting in the same, they're supposed to be focused, and they're together, it's distracting. I think that's very true. Any man who's ever in a classroom with women, girls, it's it's distracting. So we kept them separate. Prayer is a time of staying focused. You have to be very focused, and that was so we have the mechitza until today. In fact, many Orthodox shuls, the Orthodox the classic Orthodox shuls, where the women sit, called the Ezras Nashim, which is the women's courtyard. Sometimes they call it, or the Weiber shul, the wife shul, the women's shul, the Froi. They sit on top. The shul has every synagogue will have something on top. The women will sit on top, and the men will sit below. Our shul is not big enough, so it's just divided by a divider. Some have it to the side. There's no significance whether it's to the side or the women are in the back or anything like that. It's just whatever is accommodating. Now, what are the types of things that we would see at the Simchas Beis HaShoeva? And why is that pertinent today? So today, let me just explain something. If you go to Crown Heights, if you go to Borough Park, if you go to Jerusalem, if you go basically for any semi-major community to major community, there's all-night parties. All night, starting at 10 o'clock at night till 6 o'clock in the morning. There is music and dancing and everything to commemorate Simchas Beis HaShoeva. Because the concept, the mystical concept or the spiritual energy of Simchas Beis HaShoeva continues on till today. We don't necessarily need a temple. We need a temple to do it physically, actually, we want to be able to do it physically, but the spiritual significance of it continues on till today. So we dance, and it's all-night dancing, and it's a big party. One of the interesting things that would happen that the Talmud makes note was something called the Pirchei Kahuna. The Pirchei Kahuna are these young, remember Pirchei means sprouting. It means they're young men, maybe 13, 14. Their beards are starting to sprout, and they're called Pirchei Kahuna, the young Kahuna, young Kohanim, high priests. And they had a very interesting job. They would carry a jug of oil on their back in a backpack, very heavy. I'm talking like, maybe like 80 pounds or something like that. And they would climb up a ladder. And up on the top of the ladder, throughout the courtyard, there were menorahs. Some of them had 8 branches, which is what we commemorate. That's what in Hanukkah, we commemorate that branch. The 8, not the one that was in the holies. Yeah, the holy, like the 7-branch one that Aaron lit. We commemorate the one in the courtyard, which everyone was able to see. So when we get to Hanukkah, we'll talk about that. They would climb up, and there were different menorahs. Some of the menorahs had 4 on them or 2, some had 8. They would climb up these ladders, and they would take old clothing from the Kohanim. So the clothing the Kohanim would use, the priests would use in their service of the temple, was holy. They couldn't walk outside of the temple with it. And in fact, when they were done using it, they had to bury it, or it would be used as wicks to light the menorah in the courtyard. And they would climb up these things, and it was huge. It was like 20, 25 feet, 30 feet maybe. It's pretty, I don't know, it's a little scary, and it's very heavy. And they would get up there, and they would put in the oil, and they would light up they would put in and then they would take the clothing of the priest, maybe of their father or their grandfather, and they would use them as wicks, and they would light it up. It was like this huge bonfire. It said it was so bright, there was no home, that even the furthest place in Jerusalem, furthest from the temple, a woman, if she was sitting in her home, the light would shine so brightly that she was able to sift grain, like little pieces of grain, to tell the different colors. Even though it was at 1 o'clock in the morning, she was able to sift grain. She could use that light. It was so bright, and it was a big deal. And I believe they would swing down like Robin Hood from they had a rope that would hold up the menorahs, and they would swing down. It was like this whole big thing that they would do, and that was a big joy. So the Rebbe explains that their service was superior to the service of the high priest in a lot of ways. One was that the service of the high priest nobody really saw. When he would light the menorah inside the holies, and then he'd go into the holy of holies, he was the only one that was there. It didn't bring light to the outside world. However, these kahuna, these young men, they brought light. They didn't just keep the light for themselves, but they were able to bring light for all, and it came with a tremendous burden. It was very heavy, and they did it with such joy. And the Rebbe would say that it's our youth that are the ones that, in Judaism, we always focus on the youth. Everything's about the youth, educating children, and they're the ones. That's why you see on Fridays, if you live anywhere near a Lubavitch yeshiva, Chabad yeshiva, you'll see on Fridays young men going to give out candles, Shabbos candles to women, putting on tefillin with men. Now they're giving out lulav and esrog to shake. It's the young people that have the ability to bring the light. So that's one thing. Another interesting thing. So Chabad's custom is to not sleep at all in the sukkah, which is like very controversial. The Alter Rebbe himself writes in his Shulchan Aruch that you have to sleep in the sukkah, that there's a mitzvah to sleep in the sukkah. And then he writes in his siddur, he wrote in the back of his siddur. So he gave us a siddur called Tehillas Hashem, which I'm sure a lot of you see, the blue siddur, Tehillas Hashem. But in the back of it, it wasn't Tehillas Hashem then. It was called something else, whatever. But the same siddur, in the back, he wrote certain customs that he wants for his Chassidim. And they're all based on the Pri Etz Chaim. They're all based on books of Kabbalah. And he says over there, we do not sleep in the sukkah at all. And his grandson gave a whole explanation as to why. He also wrote a Shulchan Aruch, and he explains that you don't have to sleep in the sukkah if you have any pain. And we have certain pain from not being able to experience physically, tangibly, the godliness of the sukkah. And it should pain us. It pains us. So therefore, you can't sleep. We also don't sleep in the sukkah because another reason is you have no control of your body, and you could do things inappropriate. You're actually in front of the Shekhinah inside the sukkah, and you have no control at night. Things can happen. you can scratch things and expose things and do all these different things. So we don't do that. That's another reason. And where's the source for this, though? How could you say, if it says in Shulchan Aruch that you have to do it, where do we see our earliest source for people not sleeping in the Sukkah? So actually in the Gemara, in Talmud, in Sukkah, the last chapter in the Talmud Sukkah, it explains that during Simchas Beis HaShoeva, it's talking about the whole fanfare and all these different things. And it says it says about the sages that they didn't sleep. They said, we didn't sleep for 7 days. Now there's a halacha, there's a Jewish law that you're not allowed to go more than 3 days without sleeping. Oh, we explained that before. I feel like maybe I guys told you that. I think we spoke about this last week, but I'll say it one more time. So the Gemara asks, how could it be you didn't sleep for 3 days? So he said, well, what we would do is we would dance around in a circle, and we'd have our hands on the shoulder of the guy behind us, in front of us. Right? That's maybe you see a lot of Chassidim dance like that. Yeah, they dance in a circle because it never ends. There's no beginning and no end. So joy has no beginning and no end. And they said we would just lean our heads on the guy in front of us, and we would chap a little snooze. We would get like a little bit of a nap. And so we didn't really fully sleep. Why? So, and Chassidus explains that they didn't sleep. Why did they do that? They should have just gone to sleep. No, because they don't sleep in the sukkah. That's the idea. They don't sleep in the sukkah, but they also try not to sleep out of the sukkah. Because it's like this line, like I'm supposed to sleep in the sukkah, but I'm also not supposed to sleep in the sukkah. So they would like kind of nap here and there. Whatever. It's like this interesting thing. What do I want to tell you? So that's Simchas Beis HaShoeva. You'll see in Crown Heights, you'll see in Jerusalem, all these different places, a big party all night long. There was something else I wanted to tell you. For those of you that didn't shake the lulav and esrog yet, you should make a shechianu. We shake the lulav and esrog all 7 days or 8 days. We don't wear tefillin. There was something else I wanted to tell you, and I just forgot it right now. Okay, as I think, does anybody have any questions? What was I going to say? Totally forgot what I was going to say. Okay. Okay. Anyway, so on the last day of Sukkot is Hoshana Rabbah, which it's an extra long service, and we don't shake the lulav and esrog anymore. You don't throw away your lulav and esrog. You don't throw away your schach either. You should bury it, or burn it during Pesach. A lot of people burn it during Pesach. You don't have to do it like that, but you should bury it. You should put it in the woods. Whatever, you could do something like that. Then the final day, so this Friday night and Saturday night is Shmini Atzeres Simchas Torah. That's when we dance with the Torah. Oh, okay. So let me explain something over here. I think I explained this before, but maybe I'll explain it one more time. There's a connection between Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, and Shmini Atzeres Simchat Torah. What is that? So it says in the Pri Etz Chaim, which is a foremost Kabbalistic book, it says over here that there's 100 shofar blasts that we blast on Rosh Hashanah. Yeah, they blow the shofar 100 times. And that sound comes from the Yechida of the Nefesh. It comes from the deepest part within ourselves. That's the pure godliness within us. Comes out through that sound. Then it says that sound travels and becomes the smoke of the Kohen Gadol, of the incense in the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur. It travels on. There's a special connection. It travels on and becomes the smoke of the Kohen Gadol in the Holy of Holies. And then it says that smoke becomes the schach of the sukkah. The gematria, the numerical value of schach and kolos is 100. I mean, the numerical value of schach is 100, which represents which is the same as the 100 blasts that we blow on Rosh Hashanah. And then it travels, and then the schach, what the schach does is it travels onto the words of Torah that we have on Simchat Torah. What's the idea? What's the concept? It's becoming something more ethereal, something more elusive, like a sound, and it becomes a little bit more tangible, like the smoke. Then it becomes even more tangible, like the schach, the actual sukkah, the physical structure of the sukkah, until it becomes the words of Torah that we will bring inward. It becomes part of our very flesh. Yeah, when Torah is referred to as food, so when you learn Torah, it becomes who you are, what you fill your mind with. Where your mind is where you are. It actually becomes, the Torah says more than that, it becomes who you are. So we're taking that most sublime sound on Yom Kippur, we're trying to get it out and bring it into the world, express the godliness of the world, and we slowly and slowly, through a process, make it part of our very selves, which is an approach to Torah in general, that it takes time, everything's a process. So how do you keep all of the power? And says the Zohar, says 8 times, says in Kabbalah, how do you keep the power, the power of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur and Sukkot? By learning Torah. How do you continue on throughout the rest of the year? By learning Torah. After you learn the Torah, it becomes part of who you are. Now, there needs to be a gestation period of, sometimes you get an idea, and it could affect you and it can inspire you right away. But it doesn't mean it becomes who you are yet. You need a period of when it settles. The Torah refers to it as like the sediments of wine. Yeah, it falls to the ground and it settles down. Everything, you need settlement. The month of Cheshvan, which is the next month that we're going to after Tishrei, this month is called Tishrei, and it's packed. It's a packed month, nonstop holidays. Then you have the month of Cheshvan, which has no holidays. There's Chassidish holidays, but there's no holidays. Because that's the gestation period. That everything you have from Tishrei, you need to make it part of who you are. So it's very mundane. Yeah, you got to get real. So you got to go back into the real world and think about and learn Torah and carry it into the mundane life. It's very easy to be very religious and spiritual on a mountaintop in Mount Everest. Yeah, unoccupied, nobody's bothering you. Probably not Mount Everest, but secluded. But to do it in the hustle and bustle of Fifth Avenue, that's a little bit more challenging. So that's the point. That's why the month of Cheshvan, there's a bit of a break. There's a bit of a break for us to ingest and take everything in. But nevertheless, you should make sure you take part in this process, and learning Torah is the way to do it. So thank you all for coming for the Chabad Academy. And I'll end with a quick story. So I told the story yesterday. It was the eve of Yom Kippur, and there was a Jewish in the city of Berdichev, and there was a Jew who couldn't pay his debts. And what happened was, there was no police back then. There was no local governments in these little shtetls, these little towns in Russia and Poland. The landowner called a Poritz, not Jewish, he would take care of it himself. Yeah, he had his own private security to take care of whatever it was. Back then, if you couldn't pay your debts, they would throw you into a jail on his property. And until someone came and paid your debts, you were stuck there. So this Jew, whatever it was, maybe he owned he didn't own it. He rented a hotel, and he was trying to get customers to come in and buy, and he had to pay his rent to the owner of the land, but he couldn't do it. So what did? So they went to go take him. They said, okay, you're now our prisoner until someone pays off your debt. Now there's a big mitzvah called Pidyon Shvuyim, redeeming the captives. It's a tremendous mitzvah. It's one of the greatest mitzvahs you can possibly do. Pay off the debt. Eve of Yom Kippur. Everyone's very busy trying to get to shul for Yom Kippur. And everyone's like, okay, we'll deal with it. I'm sorry, we don't have the money right now to deal with this, but we'll deal with it after Yom Kippur. And it was a whole hustle and bustle. There was one Jew who said, you know what, I'll go there and I'll try to pay the debt. Maybe we'll figure it out, maybe a payment plan of some sort. So he's running around. It's 2 hours for Yom Kippur. He's running around. He's trying to find this Jew. And he finds him in a pub, in a bar with the two non-Jewish Cossacks that are holding him captive, and they're mocking him and they're making fun of him. Before they bring him to jail, they want to go stop off to get some vodka, and they're making fun of him, and they're throwing things in his face, and they say, we own you, etc., etc. And the Jew is just sitting there very despondent, and it's Erev Yom Kippur and the eve of Yom Kippur. So the Jew who took upon himself to redeem him walks in. He walks up to him and says, okay, I would like to pay the debt. How much does he owe you? So he said, he doesn't owe us that much. I think he doesn't owe us that much. But we don't want the money. We have a different plan for you. I guess they were very drunk. A different plan for you. If you want to get him out of here, they call over the waitress and they say, bring us the biggest glass you have. She brings over this glass, like this, gigantic. And they take 2 bottles of vodka and they pour it in to the glass, and it slowly starts filling up with vodka. He said, if you drink this to the bottom, we'll let him go. And he's thinking to himself, he's like, oh my gosh, this is the eve of Yom Kippur. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to drink this. And but he's like, you know what? It's a mitzvah. I'm going to do it. He takes it, picks up the glass, very heavy, and he says the blessing, Sha'akol Nye Bavaro. And he starts drinking it, and it's taking time. It's taking time, and the Cossacks are going out of their mind. They're laughing so hard. They're like, "You're stupid. I can't believe you're doing this. You're going to, God forbid, whatever's going to happen." I'm sure they didn't say God forbid. Yeah, and he finally, after a minute, he was able to finish it. And he's like, "Oh, okay." It didn't hit him yet. And they were going nuts. And they said, "You know what? We lied to you. We're not going to send him with this one. But we promise you, with this glass that you just drank, but we promise you." And they start filling it up again. "If you drink this one," and they say, and now everyone in the bar is watching. As witnesses, we have all witnesses, you can take him. And they fill it up, and it's going, and he's going out of his mind. He's like, "I don't know what's going to happen to me if I drink this." It slowly fills all the way to the top. And the despondent Jew says, "Please, I beg you, I'll do anything for you. Just do it." So he's like, "Okay, it's a mitzvah." And there he goes, slowly trying to get it all down. And the place is going wild. Finally finishes it. He finally finishes the drink. He puts it down, and they said, "Okay, you're crazy. This guy can go. You can let him go." And the guy jumps up 10 minutes before Yom Kippur comes in. He's like, "I got to get home. I got to go to my family. I got to get dressed. I got to eat something. I'm going to run to the shul. I promise you. I thank you for everything." And he runs off. This Jew's like, yeah. And starts hitting him. And he starts getting very blurry. And he makes his way out. He doesn't even feel sick. He doesn't feel anything. He starts walking through the streets of Berdichev, the little town, and many lights and candles. People are rushing. He can feel bodies moving and wind, but he can't open his eyes. And he somehow makes it to the doors of the shul, of the synagogue. And he walks in, and he slowly walks towards the ark. Now people are noticing coming in. They're like, "Oh my gosh, Yankel's drunk. Look how drunk he is. I mean, I can smell it. It's unbelievable. He can't even walk. He can't even keep his feet. Can't even keep his head up." And he's walking, and he just keeps walking, and this commotion starts building. And he finally makes it all the way to the front of the ark. His eyes are closed, and he opens up his eyes. He lifts up his head, and he opens his eyes. He's like, "Where am I?" And he looks, and he sees the ark is open. And he looks to his left, someone's there holding a Torah. And he looks to the right, somebody else is holding a Torah. And he goes, "It's nighttime. The ark is open. All the Torahs are out. I'm drunk. Must be Simchas Torah." And he grabs the Torah and he starts dancing. The typical tune for Simchas Torah. And he's dancing around the place. It's like, "You Meshuggah. It's Kol Nidre." And they're screaming, "It's Kol Nidre, Kol Nidre. It's the holiest night. What are you doing?" And he doesn't hear anything. He's dancing. And Reb Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev is sitting there. The Rav, the master, the Gaon, the Kabbalist, the biggest, tremendous tzaddik. He says, "You people, everyone quiet. What he just accomplished through his selfless act of Avos Yisrael, love for a fellow Jew, love for a fellow, he's holding past Yom Kippur. He's holding past all the work of Sukkot. He's holding by Simchas Torah, the pure joy, the pure pleasure that God has with us and his Torah." That's the message. The tachlis, the bottom line of everything we do on all these holidays, is not really for our own selves, but it's the ability and the strength to help another person. That, God says, that's the greatest pleasure I have. When my children get along and have love, selfless love for one another, that's what this is all about anyway. So there's one message to take home: selfless love, Avos Yisrael, Avos Chinam, love for a person for no reason. Even if there's nothing seemingly to love them about, you love them anyway. And you can accomplish everything you wanted to accomplish by one act such as that. Okay, I just wanted to end with that story. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, I believe you. Oh, I was on mute the whole time. No, I'm just joking. Okay, no, I'm joking. Everybody, enjoy the rest. We'll try to have a shir tomorrow. It's a little bit crazy. Chol Hamoed, a lot of vacation. I don't know if Schneer, if he is giving a class, not giving a class, Weinberg, all these different people. But we'll figure it out as we go along. Be well, everybody, and we'll be in touch. Obviously, if you have any questions, always text me if anything. Be well. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach, brother. See you guys.
Thanks, Rabbi.
Yeah, see Zimra.
Chag
Bye,
Sameach.
bro.
Chag
Chag
Sameach.
Sameach.
Chag Sameach. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.